Test, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Maybe the other one. Test, test. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys, I think we're going to make a start. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Welcome to my presentation. I'm Alastair from Jump4Heroes. Jump4Heroes consists of 3 different people. It's me, Smudge, and Spencer. The other 2 aren't here. But I'm going to be stood here talking to you about one part of Jump4Heroes, one expedition that we did late last year. I stood here last year and talked about Jump4Heroes as a whole and the concept. Now I'm just going to talk about one bit of it. For those of you that were in here earlier and heard Anu talk about the Red Bull Stratus, and he was really talking about human flight, pushing the boundaries of what it is people do where they go. I'm going to move from that really, really super high altitude experience that he talked about, and I'm going to start talking about something much lower down in the mountainous environment. And I'm going to talk to you about a project that we called Mission to the Eiger. So what I'm going to talk to you about essentially is our story. I'm going to tell you about what we did on this project, and I'm going to really look at it with a focus on teamwork as we go, because teamwork was really essential to what we did. And as we go through this, I'm going to be no holds barred. I'm going to tell you about the multiple helicopters we used around the Eiger. I'm going to tell you where it went right. I'm going to tell you where it didn't go right, where it went completely and utterly wrong. I'm going to tell you about crashing on the mountainside, and I'm going to tell you about landing in trees, which was not part of our plan whatsoever, as you can imagine. So I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to look at why we did what we did. Why would we want to go to the Eiger, this infamous mountain range? Why would we want to go there and leap from the Eiger as a team? I'm going to move on and see how we did what we did, specifically looking at the training that we did and making sure that what we did safely. And then I'm going to move on and look at specifically what it was we did, what our aim was, and how we achieved that aim, all the time looking at the teamwork that was involved in making that happen. And in looking at that teamwork, I'm going to look at our formula that we used to make sure this was a success. And I plan to inspire you and to motivate you as I go through, but also give you 2 parts of our formula that you can take away, that you can use in your teams, be that in a sports team, be that at work, be that at home, but hopefully you'll be able to take some of these tools and use them in whatever it is that you want to use these tools for. And of course, I'm going to show you some videos as we go through to illustrate the process. And I will show you for the first time the video that we brought out from this. I saw the final version for the first time on Friday. It's not been out anywhere yet, and you guys will see it for the first time this afternoon. So why did we do what we did? Why did we go to the Eiger? Why did we want to go to the infamous Eiger? Why do we want to go to a place that has this sheer north face that has claimed over 60 lives, a wall that is known as a murderous wall, a wall that doesn't see the sun? Well, quite simply, why not? Why do we skydive? Why does someone make a bungee jump? Why do you do whatever it is you do? Well, because it's there, because we can, because we want to live our lives, because we want to challenge ourselves and push the boundaries of what it is we can and can't do. And it's simple enough, perhaps, for one person to do it, but to take a team and to do that in formation adds a whole new part to that and really makes it a much more interesting experience. But for us, we had a secondary aim as well. A year prior to that, 2 of the team members were serving in Afghanistan. The year before that, our 3rd team member was also serving in Afghanistan. And we wanted to go somewhere special where we could just spend 2 minutes quietly bowing our heads and thinking about the service that our servicemen had done. And as a Royal British Legion Extreme Human Flight Team, we thought this was a pretty apt way of doing that, and thinking about friends and family that we know that perhaps had helped to give us the freedom to be able to be there. And it really was something that was difficult for us to do, be it the training, the planning, the build-up, and we really wanted to push ourselves in where we went and put that in place. And essentially as well, it was a PR piece. We talked about this concept for a while, and at one point we eventually said, we will do this, we will make this happen. And we spoke to RBL, and they also thought it was a great idea, and they could push out some PR with this. And actually, we put a video out there with their brand on us, and people will start to understand a bit more about what they do. Go to their website, check it out, and understand. So they get PR, we go and do something great, everybody wins. And back in 2009, we went to the Eiger, and we jumped from the Eiger. In fact, for Spencer, he did his first wingsuit base jump from the Eiger. Now, we had some video with us, and it probably was the worst in-air video footage we have of anything we have done. And we put it on the internet, and we got over 3 million hits, which is a huge amount of hits on our video, despite the fact that we ourselves thought it was atrocious footage, and it really was. So that's not one of the videos I will share with you this afternoon. But we thought if we can get 3 million hits by jumping off the Eiger with some really rubbish footage, imagine what we can do if we plan it, we thought about it, we took a film crew with us, and we did it in the right way, edited it, and then put that out. So we're really hoping that this video takes off and we get some great PR from it. So what I want to do now is just show you a clip of a video that we released last year, and it contrasts urban base jumping to the mountainous wingsuit proximity flight, and just gives a flavour of some of the stuff that we do. Thank you. I saw a few people shaking their heads there, but really it's not as mad and crazy as perhaps some of it might seem. So how did we do it? And essentially I'm going to look at the background, how we built this up. But more specifically to begin with, I'll look at the background of our team. So between us, these 3 team members, we have over 10,000 skydives. We have about 1,000 base jumps. We've represented UK at World Cups and Championships over 15 times. So we have a fair bit of experience that we've really built into this. And we've been friends for over 10 years. We've been jumping together as a team for over 5 years. And that teamwork built up over time with experience is really, really fundamentally important to how we did what we did. So training, of course, was important to us. And it was important that we'd build up our training. Now, I said earlier, we'd thought about this concept for a while, and it took a while until we actually said, this is going to happen, we will go to the Eiger, we will do this. Because that happened quite late on, we didn't get all of the training that we really wanted to do. But we had to work out what it is that we had to do, what standard we had to be at. And if we did not meet that, we would not do the jump. So we built our training up, and of course we wanted to start with some skydiving first. And then in the base jumping, we started with one person going off at a time, building that up to 2 ways, and then we built the 2 ways up into 3 ways, and we had video with us as well to debrief from. So skydiving was something that we really wanted to involve in this, to practice lots more time in the sky. Fortunately, we didn't have much time, and we only really got a couple of skydives done in practice for this trip. So we jumped straight into base jumping, and we went to Lauterbrunnen to an exit point called the High Nose. Now, from this area, you can actually see the Eiger. So we're in Switzerland. We're almost at the location where we're going to do this. And we went to the High Nose. Now, from this High Nose exit point, we're about 1,900 feet high. Now, what we need to do from 1,900 feet, so 100 feet below the legal skydiving opening altitude, is we would need to exit the cliff. We would then need to pick up enough airspeed for our wings to inflate, the wingsuit to get flying. We then have to close our formation. We then have to fly the formation away from the cliff. We then have to separate into clear airspace for 4 of us, the freeway plus the camera. We'd then have to open up. We'd have to undo our wings. We'd then have to fly our wing to the landing area and land safely. All done from under what is normally the legal opening altitude for skydiving. So, of course, we built it up step by step, doing solos first, 2 ways, 3 ways. And eventually we were getting tighter formations, and we were starting to get where we wanted to go with this. As things worked out, we moved on from there to another exit point. Now, just before I talk about the next exit point, if you look at the picture, that's me on the right, just after exit, and you can see that my right leg is slightly higher than my left. That's because I'm just brushing past the tree that happens to jut out of the cliff face as we exit as well. So it's not always that easy. Sometimes these exit points are a little bit tight. So we move further up to a second exit point. This exit point has a wire cable system to get to. And for some of us who hadn't spent so much time in the mountainous environment, it was perhaps a little exciting to get there, because you're literally just holding on to this. And you've got this sheer cliff edge there with just your stash bag on your back. So falling, stash bag really isn't going to help you that much. So some of us were already peaking before we'd even started to get our gear on and have to make the jump. So we got to the gear up point, and we looked up, and the weather was starting to close in. We thought we'd get a few jumps there, and we realized we weren't. And this was potentially going to be our last base jump before we actually went and jumped from the Eiger. So we really realized that we had to get this done. So we didn't rush, but we made all our stuff happen quickly. And we accepted that if we didn't get it done, we wouldn't compromise safety. We wouldn't rush, but we would make sure we got our gear on as quickly as we could and get to the exit point. The exit wasn't fantastic, but then we closed the formation. This exit point is a couple of 100 feet higher than the High Nose exit, so a little over 2,000 feet. And this extra couple of 100 feet really, really helped us. In a wingsuit, by the time you lose quite a lot of altitude to start with before you get to fly, but then, every 100 feet really, really counts for the time that we can fly. And we were able to close that formation, and we had our best jump so far. So we were going pretty well, but we still weren't at the stage that we wanted to be. Now, the Eiger has this a famous east ridge down the side of it. And so what we wanted to do is go and jump on site at the Eiger, where we were going to do our base jumps from. And we felt on-site training, getting the visuals that we'll have when we actually go and jump, is hugely important as well. So we phoned up the helicopter company that we were going to use the next day, and we managed to get some time in the helicopter. We went up above the summit of the Eiger and did a skydive, a jump from the helicopter along the east ridge of the Eiger. Now, the helicopter's kind of small-ish. It would only fit 4 of us in. So we had the 3 of us plus our cameraman. Now, our cameraman's a guy called Dukes. He's quite a famous base jumper and skydiver and pretty experienced in that area as well. So we were really fortunate to have him on side and to have him help us out. Now, he was flying the camera slot, which means Smudge, who was the closest to the door, there wasn't much space, we couldn't move around that much, would be the guy who would spot. So never having been there, Smudge had to stick his head out the helicopter, direct the pilot, who is a really good helicopter pilot, but not used to flying skydivers, and direct him to make sure we were close enough to the East Ridge that we would be able to follow that line down, that we could fly in proximity to that East Ridge, not hardcore proximity flight, but close enough to be there, but we didn't want to be right over the top of it, because getting out there, getting our wings inflated, we didn't want to be over the top of that rock, because that might be a bit of an issue. So we had to strike that balance of being not too close, but not too far over to the side as well. And so Smudge did a great job. He was looking out, and that worked. We then got the cameraman Dukes. He was on the back of the skid. Smudge was in the middle, and Spence somehow managed to climb out. He kind of had to open the front door, which only opened so far to an angle, get out, sort of close that door, so that he could then get there holding on. So we had 3 people on the skid, and I was inside. And because it's a small helicopter, it's very important that as we exit, we just drop off and we don't push off. With 3 people plus me as close as I can, so 3.5 on one side, in a small helicopter, the pilot's already having to do stuff to correct for that weight all the way over there. And if they pushed off, perhaps he wouldn't find it too funny as he's that close to the mountain as well. So we were cautious about that, and perhaps I was overcautious as a result, because the count came, Smudge went, everyone went, and I was left inside. And this is the point where time stopped still for me, and my brain raced forward, and there I was thinking, this is our last chance to practice before we go and do our jump from the Eiger. We've got a film crew here, everything's in place, and I have just screwed it up. And everything seemed to stop still. And what was about 2 seconds felt like 10 minutes for me. And so I exited as fast as I could. I had a really good exit, so I didn't over-rush, but it worked out. I think perhaps luckily for me, I had a great exit. The wingsuit inflated, and I saw them just in front of me. And what I wanted to do was dive down and get into formation. But what I also knew is that they were a couple of seconds in front of me, and that means their wingsuits were already flying in front of mine, and that means they were already going to accelerate away from me. So fortunately, what I did was I picked the point in front of them, started diving for that, and as they accelerated, I fitted into my slot. Now, the advantage of being up here around 13,000 feet, we've got a huge skydive ahead of us, proximity flying against the line of that East Ridge, is that we were going to build our formation, and then we were going to use this time to back out and build it back up, fly it for a while, and come out and come in. So we could really practice all of the parts that we needed a number of times for our base jump from the Eiger. And we did this, and we're flying along. Spence is the lead of our formation, and we want to fly an arrowhead formation. So Spence is out in front, Smudge is to the left, and then I'm over to the right. And so I'm the closest one to that East Ridge. So there's one point where I just looked over to that ridge, and there it is staring you in the face. And it's something that is really hard to explain to you, but suddenly when you're there, you see the enormity of this mountain, thousands and thousands of feet of this mountain that's there. You can't understand that scale until you are this one tiny speck next to it, flying along. And this really felt to us what true human flight was about. When you're there, not just skydiving, but you're there in proximity in the mountains, seeing the speed that you're going as you go through, as you fly past this mountain. And so Spence led us through, we flew down, and as that ridge started to end, we kind of banked left a bit, over the trees, over the fields, and then opened up and came down to a safe landing. And we got exactly what we need. We practiced getting in and out of that formation. We built it, we flew it, and we were on our high now. We really felt we had what we needed to go and jump from the Eiger. So what did we actually do? Well, I think the important thing is to tell you what our aim was. What was our aim? What were we trying to do in this? And essentially, we wanted to take a freeway in wingsuits, in formation, and we picked an arrowhead formation with smoke from the mushroom formation on the Eiger and fly that out. That was what we wanted to do. But our secondary aim, and to us, perhaps a bit more important, was that we wanted to take a 2-minute silence up on the Eiger, and standing there with that silence, in the middle of nowhere, but you're just looking out and there's no one around but you, and that's what we wanted to do as well at the same time. So we had to storyboard what it was we wanted. We had to think about the film that we were trying to make and storyboarding that and working that out. And we felt that what we wanted to do was tell the story of one jump. So from getting on the helicopter, getting up onto the Eiger, we have our 2-minute silence, we do our jump, the smoke's going, and we open up, and everyone's safe and happy. And that was our plan. Now, we'd done something similar in the past. The other year, we'd gone to Italy, and we had made a film that was, again, about one jump, going up to the exit point, jumping from the exit point, flying through the mountains, opening up. And we wanted to simulate that kind of story. So what I want to do is now show you the video that we made of that so you can understand the concept and what our vision was of how we would make this work. So that was what we wanted to do, but in our own way from the Eiger, and improve on that, make it better. So the first day for our jumps, we turned up at the heliport about 6:30. We weren't taking off till 8, but we had to sort out our gear. We had pilot briefings, had to look at the Met, all of that kind of stuff. Now, we worked out with the pilots that we would have probably, if we were lucky, 8 jumps over 2 days. Now, the Italy video that I just showed you, that was 25 jumps to put that in place. To get the angles that we needed, that took 25 jumps, and we were going to have 8. So we really had to make sure that every jump counted. So we got on board the helicopter, and we flew up to the Eiger. We stopped en route to pick up a mountain guide. Part of the law in Switzerland, I think, to keep people in jobs is you must have a qualified Swiss mountain guide with you up there. So we picked him up, and up we went. And we landed on the mushroom that you can see here in the photo. Now, where it lands, the skid just touches a little bit, and then it's off the deck a bit. Now, I was the first one out. So I get out, you stand on the skid, and then you jump from the skid onto the rock. Now, you're not exactly going to miss, are you, from there? but it doesn't matter. You're there thousands and thousands of feet up, getting out of a helicopter onto uneven rock. You're still a bit nervous anyway. It doesn't matter who you are. So I got out, and then I moved up the rock. And you can see it's at an angle here. Now, the problem with moving up there is that on top of the helicopter, you can just see the rotor blades here, which are higher. And so I'm now having to do exactly what my brain is telling me not to do, and I'm having to step up towards those rotor blades. So we're keeping low, and I have to do that because I have to make space for the rest of the team to get out. So we're stepping up. As Spence gets out, he moves up towards me, and we stay low. We're holding each other down because it's windy now. The rotors are blowing stuff around. The last thing we want to do is get blown off. Eventually, we all get there. The helicopter flies away. So it's easy now. All we've got to do is do the jump. So we get our gear in place, and we move to the exit points. Now, from the exit point, it's a little bit rough, actually. The picture doesn't show it so well, but we had one person stood high up here, the next one staggered down, and then the third one even lower, because this was a key area. This was the safest place. This was the more overhanging or sheer part of the rock. If we exited on different parts, we would put more danger on ourselves. But what it did mean is when you're stood there, you're stood on the edge and you're balancing yourself. And some of us were in positions where you're hardly touching with one of your feet. You're there in exactly where you need to be and you can't move. So what we worked out is that we had to do a pre-count before our exit count. We had to work out how long it took each of us to get to the exit point, and so when we would do that, so we wouldn't leave someone for 2 minutes perched, half on edge, ready to go and about to fall off or perhaps worse. So we stood there and we worked it out. And what we also found is Spence, who was our lead guy, he was the guy wearing the smoke. He wasn't able to reach down to his smoke from there. So we had to change our count as well. And Smudge would pop the smoke, that would start our count, and then Spence would make the count. And so that's what we did. The smoke's now going, Spence does the count, and off we go. And the smoke's going, we go off, and again, I had this great inflation. The exit was good, and this was really important, because if Spence got inflated, if Spence got going first, and we're a little slow, then he's going to accelerate away from us, and we're not going to catch him. So it worked out really well. Smudge and I were out, suit inflated. Spence took a fraction more time, and it was great, and we closed our formation pretty quickly. Now, because I had this great exit, my mind was working overtime. I just had this thing getting off the helicopter. I'm stood on the Eiger. We're doing this base jump. I'm focused on what we're doing. I'm getting all these inputs in, and my mind is working really, really quickly. Now, the plan is, once we go off, Spence makes a 30-degree turn to the right, because that's the landing area. That's where the film crew are. That's where the ground crew are. That's where their helicopter's going to land to pick us up to go up again. And the turn didn't happen. And I'm there flying my suit, and I'm thinking, okay. And the turn still didn't happen. And so I thought, okay, it's not the end of the world. We'll be safe. We'll fly straight. We'll find somewhere else to land. There are other areas we can land. We'll be safe, but we won't be where the helicopter's going to pick us up. We're going to have to get back there. It's all going to cost us time. We're going to lose jumps, but we'll be safe. It will work. And just as all that's going through my mind, the turn came. And so my anticipation was gone. I needed to anticipate that turn. I needed to be almost ahead of it, making that turn. And then it came. So I drop out. And again, time stopped still for me again. And what was actually probably only half a second or a second this time, again, seemed like a minute or 2 minutes. But you just popped that wingsuit. These wingsuits are really great. We weren't flying maxed out, so I had a little bit more range, and I just squeezed it back into place, and then we carried on. And what had happened is I was just thinking so far ahead of time. Spence had done exactly what the plan was and turned exactly when he had, but my mind was working too fast. So we kept on flying, and we're flying towards the landing area, towards the film crew, and as we're flying, we get away from the rock face. But after we've moved from the rock face, the terrain is coming down at an angle here. Now, in regular base jumping, when you start to get close to the ground, it feels like it really rushes up at you, and you have this huge ground rush, and you think, oh no, I am going to die now, and you open. Now, in wingsuit base jumping, it's not quite the same, because your vertical speed, and you've got this horizontal speed as well, isn't as fast. You don't get this ground rush in the same way. So it's easy to suck yourself in and go a bit low. Now, the terrain now that we're flying over is at an angle. So not only that, we're not flying over flat ground, so you get a little bit of ground rush, but we're just getting a tiny bit closer each time. And Spence started to get sucked in and think he was still quite high. So Smudge and I started to pop off to the side, get some clear airspace. And our cameraman, Dukes, he started to pop, get a bit of height. And as we're doing that, we're in freeform, we're watching Spence diving it hard, because we wanted him to dive hard so we could always dive down and catch him up if anything ever went wrong. So he's still diving it hard at the ground, and he keeps going. And he keeps going. And we're now starting to think, okay, he's not taking it low, this is an issue. And there's nothing we can do. We can't talk to him, we don't have comms in any way, and he keeps going. And I'm not exaggerating now, it really was like that. It wasn't, he keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. He just kept going. And when you look at stuff from up high, it always looks lower than it is as well. And I knew that, and I still knew he was super low. And then he pulled. And suddenly you felt joy that your teammate who you thought was just about to go in and hit the ground is alive, until you saw the 90-degree left-hand turn and Spencer in the trees. On our first jump. Probably hurt, definitely damaged his kit. We haven't brought our second rigs with us, because our second rigs are a little bit different in colour, and we wanted to be exactly the same each time. And we'd made a judgment call that we would just use the one rigs the whole time. Wow. So I have a little bit of video here as we show it. Now, the video, we didn't plan this, so the video isn't that great, as you might expect. So you'll see the start, the cameraman pop, and that's Spence that's in frame, flying lower and lower and lower. Just after the cameraman opens, at the very bottom of the screen, half left, you just see him going into the trees just. It's a white wing that he's flying. And then when the cameraman then sets up to come into land, you see a white thing in the trees, and again, that's Spencer. So have a watch.
Mark.
So just in the middle of the screen, that's that white thing there, that's Spencer. So this wasn't really part of our plan. Now, as we're under canopy, we're obviously a bit higher, so we've got more time under canopy. We look down and we know he's going to be hurt in some way, hopefully not too badly. Definitely, we've got ultra low bulk fabric wings, which means the material's really thin, which means probably not the best material to put into a tree. So we know his kit's going to be damaged in some way as well. And as we fly over, he shouts up and he tells us that he's okay. And then Dukes, our cameraman, who wasn't coming up with us on the next jump, he was going to sit a couple of jumps out because of some of the shots that we needed. He shouted across, "You guys fly back to the landing area, I'll look after him." And this was now perhaps the hardest thing that we had to deal with on the trip. We were now being asked to abandon our teammates. We were being asked to abandon a friend that we'd had for over 10 years, been on a team jumping with for over 5 years. And that's what we did. Because we had to trust that Spencer, when he told us that he was okay, that was the truth. We had to trust Dukes, a guy that we'd known for quite some time, who's an experienced jumper, that he would be able to look after him. And if there was an issue, we wouldn't be that far away and he could get in contact with us. So we left Spencer in the trees while we went back. So we're busy packing up, talking to the film crew, the director, about different actions that we can take, what should we do. We didn't really have enough footage for a video yet after one jump. Where would we go? Spencer, could he jump again? Could he not? We were missing the gear, all of that. The long and short of it is Spencer was all right. Dukes helped him, got him out of the tree. And what Spencer had did as he flew into the trees was he grabbed on. And he grabbed onto the trees, and it took him one or two, but he grabbed on and then lowered himself down. Now, at no time was the weight on the fabric of his wing. At no time was any weight there. There was no damage to his kit whatsoever. He was very fortunate in what he did and just had a couple of scrapes and perhaps a slightly dented ego. So actually, it all worked out pretty well. And this is Spencer hanging now on the ground. The kit's hanging in the tree, and that's what it looked like. So he was able to just climb down, get his gear out, run back down to us, being the military man he is. And actually, Muggins here ended up having to pack his kit while he had a drink and something to eat. And we got back on the helicopter, and we went back up to do our next jump. So once we got back up there, our next plan was to stand there for 2 minutes and really think about those that we had lost, be it family members, be it friends. We all had friends that we know that have died. So we really spent this time now, and it was a really emotional time up there as we bowed our heads and actually thought about that where we were there. And just that inspiring landscape that we had really made us think about what it was we were doing and how happy we were to be there, living our lives as best we could. And while we were doing this, we'd arranged for a second helicopter to have a gyro-stabilized helicopter-mounted camera on it. So this had another director in there, a technician in there, and the pilot. So this helicopter could only be used, a dedicated helicopter for those shots. And we'd arranged for them to come up and film us up there as well. So they got some of this 2-minute silence that we had. Now, we had some particular shots that we needed them to get. And as a result, they would dictate the exit timing to us. So they got us to pop the smoke, and that started to go. And it started to go, and it started to go. And they were a little further back than perhaps they'd originally planned to be. So it took them a bit of time to fly forward as they wanted with the smoke going before we exited. And at that point, they said, start your count. So we did. And then they wanted us to slow it partway through because they were still a little bit too far behind where they were. But we had all this smoke going. And once our count started, we had to go, and we had to follow that count. So we went, and this is where we had to have absolute trust. The smoke was around us that much that as we went off, we couldn't see each other, and we couldn't see where the other person was on exit. So we had to absolutely 100% have trust in our teammates to do exactly what they had to do, to exit exactly as planned, when they should, and do what they had to do. And so I went off, suit inflated, still in the smoke, still can't see anything. And then as we cleared the smoke, I looked over. Spence was exactly where he had to be. Smudge was exactly where he had to be. And that's what we had to do. We had to trust implicitly that people would do their job even when you're forced in that situation. We flew off. We had a good jump. We opened up at more normal heights, and no one landed in the trees. So we packed up. We got on the radio to the director and asked him how the shot went. And they were too far back. Our timing had been out for them, and so we needed to go up and do that shot again. So we got back on the helicopter for our third jump of the day, went up, and we did that shot for the second time. We got the shot right. It was exactly what we needed to do. And we flew off, opened up again at a semi-regular height that was okay, got back to where we needed to land on the mountainside, and packed up again. Now, we had a bit of a short time frame now. The Cineflex helicopter from a different company had to be back at a certain time. Now, they turned up slightly late for our first jump, and this had kind of pushed us back. So we got up there as quickly as we could, stood on the exit point, and we get the radio call to say that they're not coming, that they've missed their time slot, and they're not going to be there, which is quite unfortunate because we had gone up there without any cameras at all because we were concentrating specifically on this shot. So there we were, just us, no cameras to make a film. So we went off and just did a bit of a fun jump, practiced some of what we needed to do, and hoped that at least some of our film crew on the ground would get some of the angles that we needed. We landed, took our time, we had a bit of time now, we packed up, and the helicopter was actually going to fly us back to the helicopter base. So we jumped on board, and we thought, well, our rigs are packed. And so we said to the pilot, is there any chance you can fly over to Steckelberg? So this is in the valley where we're staying, a bit further up near one of the exit points we've been training at. And the guys just wanted to, it had been pretty intense. We'd been peaking, the adrenaline had been flowing, lots had been going on. Guys were, a bit tired at that time. They just wanted to do a chilled out flight down the valley and open up, which was all well and good. I had spotted, and I'd seen for many years, over on the east, this V formation in the rock, up really, really high. And I'd always wanted to go and fly for it. And we were getting out in exactly the right location for the guys to have their chilled out flight down the valley, and for me to exit and just peel over to the right. So I think you can guess what happened. So we went out and the guys started their relaxed flight, and I peeled over to the right nice and high, and I was cupping air because I wanted as much height as I could so I could then play with that. I could always dive down if I needed to, but if I arrived there too low, I wouldn't be able to do that flight. So we got over there, and I got in position nice and high, and then I really started to get the power on. I started to dive my wingsuit, and I could see this V, and I dived it as hard as I could, and I knew I was going to be too high going through it, and I dived it that little bit harder, because with speed you have lift. With lift, in wingsuit base jumping, you survive, or you're more likely to. So I dived it as hard as I can, going as fast as I could, going through this V, and I went through it in what felt like just inches to spare. Now, in reality, that probably means numbers of feet, but when you're there in that moment concentrated, you do feel that you're that bit tighter on it than perhaps you really are. So I dived through it, and I was so focused, so intense, but focused on everything. My mind was going so fast as I found I'd get into these situations of this intense environment. My mind just is able to open up and process so much information much faster than I normally can. And I was doing that, flying through, and then of course there's a big wall there on this east ridge, and of course I've gone through this V and there's a big wall here. I'm not going to peel out into the open air, but of course, so I proximity flew through that, followed it round for a bit. But, this was the fifth jump of the day. We've been going for a while, so I was sensible, peeled off early, and then joined the others. We opened up, landed, high-fived, and headed back to where we were staying. Now, of course, we still had lots to do. We had to pack. We had to debrief. We had to look at all the video footage that we'd shot, check with our storyboard how that fitted in, what we needed to do the next day, how that would work, redefine our shot list, and plan everything for the next day. So it was a bit of a late afternoon, late evening, and overnight with everything that had just gone on, what we had to come, we were pretty peaking as well, so we had a bit of a restless night's sleep. So the second day. This was a day that we were concentrating much more on air-to-air work. We didn't have that second helicopter. We didn't have unlimited funds to get that there. So we were concentrating on air-to-air work with Dukes. So the first jump, we went off. We had a great jump. We opened up at normal height, landed. A couple of us landed perhaps slightly better than others, but we landed, packed up, went back up for the second jump. We worked out the shot, so the director had just looked at the footage, what we needed to do, and we went up and jumped for the second time. And this time, Spence just took it that little bit lower again. And so we're there under canopy going, come on, Spence. But this time, we only kind of had to think it once, because then he opened. which was fortunate. But he started to realize as he was flying back lower than the rest of us that he was going to struggle to make the landing area. Now, there are other areas to land, but he would be quite a long way away because there was a big area of trees that he had to get over. And he decided he was going to struggle to get over those trees. But between the trees, and you saw it on the video where he landed in the trees, that there were those trees on the left, another set on the right, but there was in between, there was a gap, and it sloped down. So if he could get in this gap between the trees and then turn it and fly down this gap, then he might be able to make it. But he didn't. So we saw Spencer crash on the mountain on a ledge, and he hit this ledge. He rolled over, he rolled off the ledge, he rolled down onto the next ledge, and then rolled down onto the next one. And then he was still. And we're under canopy again, helpless, thinking, what on earth can we do? And so, of course, we're looking for other places to land, and having seen how Spencer just landed, we perhaps thought that immediately in that area might not be the best place, but where can we land close to that? Should we put it in the trees? At least we might be able to land close to him and get to him. And then he stood up. And he waved, and he was okay. He'd had the wind knocked out of him. That's why he was still for a bit. He was hurting a bit, but he was okay. And so he waved up. He shouted to us. He said he was okay and directed us back to the landing area. And so again, we had this point where we were being asked to abandon our teammate. And so we did. And again, we had to trust him that he knew what was best. He was the only person there on the ground that knew what condition he was or wasn't in, and how best to deal with that, and did he need our help. And we had to trust him that he would be honest and tell us how he was. And so we did. So we flew down, got our kit together, packed up, talked to the director, who worked out that there was a shot that they wanted that didn't need all of us. So this gave Spence a chance to stand down for a jump, and Smudge stood down as well. Now, Spence had also hurt his ankle a bit as well, so it probably wasn't too bad a thing. So Doogs and I took the helicopter up to a secondary higher exit point called the High Eiger, or Eiger. And it's about 1,300 feet higher than the mushroom exit point that we've been jumping from, or at least that's what we thought. And we took the helicopter up to a point about 40 meters lower than this exit point. It was the closest place it could get in. We got off the helicopter with our mountain guide, and the mountain guide seemed like he had his hands in his pockets just out for a stroll. And there I am. We've got this steep ridge here that we're trying to go up. Now here we've got the north face. Now I've got my rig on, so if I fall off down the north face, well, it's probably not the end of the world. I've got a rig on. But if I slip and slide down the back of the Eiger, because what we're going through now is snow and ice and loose rock, if I slip and slide down there, I know I will be seriously injured. I will go for thousands and thousands of feet before I can stop myself. And if I'm only seriously injured, then I'll be fortunate. So this mountain guide is out for a bit of a stroll, hands in his pockets, and there I am in a wingsuit with cameras all over me, including one sticking out the side of my foot, trying to clamber up this. And I didn't want 3 points of contact on the mountain. I was trying to get 18. If I could lie down and just crawl up, I would have done. So for me, this was probably one of the most intense experiences of the trip, going up vertically that 40 meters, and that was it. But going up there to get to that exit point was probably, apart from leaving my teammate on the mountain and in the trees when he'd crashed, this is probably the most intense part of the whole trip. But eventually, Doogs and I scrambled up to where we needed to be to do our jump. And we wanted footage from here. So we wanted in-air footage, so flying past the mushroom that we were exiting from. Now, where we had to exit from, we couldn't actually see it. We're on the face here. The face comes out a bit here, so we couldn't see the mushroom, and then it's on the other side. But we had lots of height, so we would exit, allow our suits to inflate, come out, start to fly around, and then we can pick up line of sight of the mushroom. We can get our line, and then we can fly over it, buzz it, and then what we were going to do is fly over the back of the Eiger, over that cliff edge, and then we've got all this mountain here. We'd carve it round to the right, back out over the edge again, and then back down to the landing area. And that was our plan. So Dukes went first. He hopped off, seemed to have a good exit, suit inflated, went round to the left, round that bit that was sticking out, and I lost sight of him. I didn't hear anything, so I assumed that he hadn't hit anything. And so I got on the exit, went off, good exit again, and I took my time. I knew I had time. I knew I had height. Took my time. I came round a bit, and then suddenly, instead of seeing the mushroom down here, where I was expecting to be able to dive at it, it was more up here. I didn't have as much height as we thought we would have. And suddenly I had to change my plan. Would I go with the plan I had, which would probably mean kind of impacting it a little bit? Or would I abort? Or was there a compromise I could make? Now, the compromise I would only make if I knew I could pull it off. If not, I am going to abort. I can always do a jump another time. That mountain isn't going anywhere, although we were limited in our time. But better to land safely than perhaps not to land at all. But I realized at that time that I could do part of what we needed, but not all of it. So I wouldn't fly exactly over the mushroom, but just to the side. I could then go over the ridge and then carve it back round as planned. And so that's what I did. So we didn't really get the shot that we wanted, but I carved that round, going past where we needed to go, back round, then flew out to the landing area, opened up, and Dukes and I both had this most uplifting experience, because we'd both just done this jump that we hadn't done in the past, and it had both gone a little bit wrong for us, but we'd both fixed it and got it right. And for me, I still had all that in my system from just going up that 40 meters that I found was a particularly tough thing for me to do. So we'd got that, and the director had one more shot that he wanted with our last jump that we would get from the Eiger. So Spence took a big dose of man-up pills for his ankle, promised he wouldn't open low, and in fact, the director particularly had a good idea for this, because what he wanted was a shot of us under canopy. So we went off, flew our formation for a bit, but then opened super high. And the idea was that Dukes would stay on the mountain, watch us open, get off in his wingsuit and buzz us under canopy to get an aerial shot coming past all three of us in a line. And that's what he did. And it's really impressive seeing the lift he gets in that mountainous area with that as he came past us, really nice and tight, got the footage, and then kept going, and the wingsuit kept flying and flying and flying. The lift that his wingsuit can get as he dived it and then pitched it flat and kept going on and on and on. And that was it. That was our jumps. And we just had to hope with what we'd got. We hadn't got some of the shots that we wanted. We were limited. We'd had some ups and downs on the trip, but that was our last jump. So this video I saw for the first time, the completed version, on Friday. It's not out on the internet yet. It will probably go in the press next week. It will probably be somewhere on the internet, hopefully next week, but about 6 weeks till it's on our YouTube channel. But I'd really like to share the video that we made from our trip. We also plan to have a longer version that's going to be a making of come out that will be a kind of no holds barred, show you some of the crashes and those other things that I alluded to as well, but that will take a bit more time, I'm afraid. So I said at the start I will talk to you about two aspects of the formula that we help to use to make this work for us, and aspects that perhaps you can take away that will work for you as well. And essentially what it does come down to is teamwork, and it's all about working as a team. But the first bit is complete and absolute trust in your teammates. Absolutely trusting that they will do exactly what they have to do, exactly what that plan is, exactly when they have to do it. And having that trust. And it takes time and effort to make sure that that will happen. It means you have to go away from the workplace, from the normal teamwork that you do, and do other stuff to help build that trust. But you need to get yourself and your team in a position where you will have absolutely 100% that complete confidence that your teammate will do exactly what they have to do. The other part I'm talking about is not have you got the balls to jump off a mountain, off a building, out of a plane, to do a bungee jump, but have you got what it takes to say, you know what, this thing that I want to go and do, I'm going to make this happen. I will do it. And that's what we had. We talked about this for quite some time, about this jump from the Eiger, and we talked about it and talked about it. At the end of the day, one of us had to stand up and say, let's stop talking, let's make this happen. Let's make it happen. And we have to have enough about ourselves, the courage to go out there and say, this will happen, whatever it takes. And in doing that, you've got to understand the risks involved. And they may be physical risks to you, they may be risks to you achieving whatever it is, but you've got to understand, is it possible? Can I achieve this? And understanding them, analysing the risks. If you can analyse the risks, you can calculate the risks. And once you can calculate those risks, then you can mitigate them. If those risks are not at a level that is acceptable to you, then you need to do that. You need to mitigate them in some way so you can reduce those risks to something that is acceptable to you. And all of you will have a different level of where that is, perhaps depending on your experience, your attitude towards risk. But it's finding a way, if I went and spoke to Joe Public and said, I'm going to go and jump from the Eiger, they'd think I was mad. But what they don't see is all of the training, all of the work that we put into it to reduce those risks to what for us were acceptable risks. And we mitigated them. And at the end of the day, it is far better to have failed than to have never tried at all. If you want more information on anything that we do, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. Our website, Jump4Heroes.com. Our usernames in social media is all Jump4Heroes. So please do go have a look, check us out, see our videos. Feel free to share them around as well. I'm going to take any questions now, but please stay in here because I've just showed you a video, and we're going to have a presentation next on how to make a great video as well. But if there's any questions, I'll take them now. Yeah. He packed his gear up and he kind of hiked down and ran a bit, which probably didn't help his ankle, which was particularly sore later on and for the next couple of days. But he's a military guy and he found a way to make it happen. It's not that much that you can't get down on your own from there, just is a bit awkward and takes a bit of time. Any other questions? Great, thank you very much. Oh, what more? What will be your next project? I've got a meeting in a couple of weeks trying to put that together. We've got lots of ideas, but our projects a few years ago went from low budget, things that we can fund ourselves and kind of make happen, and we're trying to make them a bit bigger, and that means we need backing and funding to do that. So we've got loads of great ideas, we just need people to help support that to make them happen. So I've got a meeting in a couple of weeks, we're hoping to put some things in place. I hope they will be big. But we'll just have to wait and see, I'm afraid. Any other questions? Great, thank you very much.